Bloggo's POW.
So, Streets of Rage, a fantastic series that after 3 games has been forgotten by Sega. Fans have wished for a 4th game for years, and a few times another sequel had been hinted. For example, Fighting Force by Core Design was pitched to Sega as a Streets of Rage instalment, which got rejected, ended up being released on the PlayStation. Mind you, Sega has still produced a few scrolly fighting games in the intervening years, which prove Streets of Rage 4 could have been a reality. So let's take a look. This is Die Hard Arcade. It was originally released as an STV arcade game called Dynamite Decker in Japan, and due to the game's similarity with a certain Bruce Willis flick, it was actually rebranded by Fox Interactive for its Western Saturn release as an official Die Hard game. That's a fun beat 'em up. It doesn't really follow the flow of the movie at all, which makes for a very odd license indeed. You've got your 2-player co-op play, lots of weapons. It's got these odd quick time events now and again where you've got to press a button at a certain point to probably hit a baddie in the face most of the time. But as a whole, it's a bit janky. I'd say the graphics are good, but maybe it's a little ambitious for the hardware. I wonder what John McClane did to piss these firemen off. I don't remember this bit in the movie. It does show that AM1 were thinking about scrolling fighters, and although this is a good effort to bring the genre into the 3D age, it doesn't quite work. It's a bit hard to play in places. It's hard to line up your hits sometimes. You find yourself punching thin air on occasions. Obviously, not as good as the Streets of Rage games, but, you know, I think that's worth a go. Now, Die Hard Arcade was followed up by Dynamite Decker 2, known as Dynamite Cop outside of Japan. This is the Japanese version I'm playing. It's a follow-on from the first game in as much it's very similarly designed. You do this time pick one of 3 characters, and it's 2 players as well like the first game was. The plot being that you've got to stop hijackers or pirates which have kidnapped the president's daughter or something. I don't know, I wasn't paying attention. This is really good stuff. This is the refinement that Die Hard Arcade needed. You've got lots of weapons. In fact, you've got insane weapons. You've got handguns, machine guns. You can pick up arcade machines. You've even got a mini nuclear missile at one point. Absolutely insane weapons. The characters that you fight are absolutely batshit crazy. There's even a fight against a giant octopus, of all things. It's got the same quick time events that the first game had. It appears to have multiple routes as well. The locations are interactive, like there's a scene where there's flames running down an engine room, which can hurt you. You've got some grappling moves. There's even a bit where there's one of the Bizarrians from Golden Axe locked in a cage on one of the stages, which is a pretty cool throwback to Golden Axe. It's a really great game. If you can find a copy of this on Dreamcast, I would pick it up. It's excellent. It won't last forever. You can go through it fairly quickly, but it's a lot of fun. Next up, a bit of a change of pace. This is Zombie Revenge, also released on the Dreamcast. So this is an undead fighting game. Difference being you've got a handgun for most of the game as well, so you can fight and shoot as well. Problem there being is the handgun has limited ammo. There's plenty lying around to refill, but if you do run out, you're going to have to resort to hand-to-hand combat, which in this case is extremely slow and painful. The character movement is slow as well. It doesn't make really for a fun game, especially after you've just played Dynamite Decker 2, which is fast and really good fun. I got some fun out of this when I first got it years ago, but on reflection it's not that great. It's still got lots of bosses, lots of weapons, including a pretty cool callback to Once Upon a Time in Mexico with a guitar case that masquerades as a rocket launcher. There's one really good callback, which is a level which is based on the first stage of House of the Dead. It plays the same music as well. It's quite a surprise when I found that bit out, so spoiler warning, sorry. Aside from that, I can't really recommend Zombie Revenge at all. It's very slow, it's unfair in places, some of the boss fights are tedious beyond belief. If you're going to get a fighting game on the Dreamcast, stick with Dynamite Decker. Right, last up, I've got Spike Out Battle Street for the original Xbox. Now this was a Sega arcade game, I've never played it. I think it had linked cabinets because the Xbox version has the option to play online or via link cable, so I believe it was linked cabinets in the arcades. This has more in common with a 3D roaming fighting game. Some bits of it remind me of the multiple fights in Shenmue in some places. But it is at heart an arcade game. It's score based, there's no real progression in terms of the story aside from get from point A to point B. There's no exploration or anything. It's quite good looking for a game of its age. It's just not massively interesting to play. The combos are pretty limited, it's not as good as Dynamite Decker, I'm going to say it again. But I thought that I'd include it because not a lot of people know about it. If you can see it around cheap, you know, by all means pick it up, but aside from the main character's ridiculous pink trousers, there's not really a lot to get excited about this. So there's a quick look at a few fighting games which were released by Sega after Streets of Rage, which, you know, with a bit of refinement, they could have been Streets of Rage games. Okay, a lot of refinement in some cases. In fact, a lot of refinement full stop. I mean shit, why am I bothering? Streets of Rage 2 is pretty much fucking perfect.
Yeah, subscribe or naff off!
Here, take this! A man with golden eyes said to give it to you.